The Lizzie Borden murders are one of the most infamous cases in American history. On August 4th, 1892, the quiet town of Fall River, Massachusetts, was shaken by a brutal double homicide. Andrew Borden and his wife, Abby, were found dead in their home, killed with an axe in a crime so gruesome it shocked the nation. At the center of the case was Andrew's youngest daughter, Lizzie Borden, a reserved yet independent woman whose trial would captivate the public and divide opinion for generations. Was she a cold-blooded killer, or was she falsely accused due to societal biases and circumstantial evidence? In today's episode, we'll explore the events of that fateful day, the investigation, the sensational trial, and the lingering questions about what really happened in the Borden household. This is the story of the Lizzie Borden murders. To understand the Lizzie Borden case, we must first look at the Borden family and their life in Fall River, Massachusetts. Andrew Borden, the patriarch, was a successful businessman known for his frugality. Despite his wealth, the family lived modestly in a simple home, far from the more affluent areas of town. Andrew's second wife, Abby Borden, was often at odds with his daughters, Lizzie and her older sister Emma. The sisters reportedly resented Abby and referred to her as Mrs. Borden rather than stepmother. Tensions in the household were exacerbated by disputes over inheritance and Andrew's tight control over the family finances. Lizzie, the youngest daughter, was in her early 30s at the time of the murders. Unmarried and living at home, she was active in her church and local charities. Outwardly, she appeared to be a dutiful daughter, but those who knew the family suggested that there was simmering resentment beneath the surface. By the summer of 1892, these tensions had reached a boiling point. The family's maid, Bridget Sullivan, later testified that the household was plagued by arguments in the days leading up to the murders. Then, on the morning of August 4th, tragedy struck. The morning of August 4th, 1892, began like any other in the Borden household. Andrew and Abby had breakfast together, while Bridget Sullivan, the maid, went about her chores. Lizzie claimed she was upstairs in her room, and Emma was out of town visiting friends. At around 9:30 a.m., Abby Borden went upstairs to the guest room to make the bed. It was there that she was attacked. She was struck 19 times with a sharp object, likely an axe, her skull fractured in multiple places. Andrew Borden left the house to attend to business matters in town, returning home shortly before 11 a.m. According to Lizzie, she had been in the barn looking for fishing sinkers and came back into the house to discover her father's body. Andrew had been struck 10 times, his face so mutilated that one of his eyes had been split in half. Lizzie alerted Bridget to the gruesome discovery, and the maid quickly ran for help. By the time neighbors and authorities arrived, the Borden home had become the site of one of the most infamous crime scenes in history. The police investigation began almost immediately, but it was hampered by several missteps. Crime scene preservation was not a priority in 1892, and many potential clues were lost or contaminated as curious neighbors and investigators roamed through the house. Attention quickly turned to Lizzie Borden. Her behavior after the murders struck many as odd. She was calm and composed, which some interpreted as cold and calculated. Others pointed out that Lizzie had changed her story multiple times. For example, Lizzie initially claimed she heard nothing during the murders, despite being in the house. She later mentioned seeing a strange man lurking near the property, though no one else corroborated this sighting. Suspicion deepened when police discovered that Lizzie had tried to purchase prussic acid, a highly toxic poison, from a local drugstore days before the murders. Although the pharmacist refused to sell it to her, the incident raised questions about her intentions. Another incriminating detail emerged when Lizzie was seen burning a dress in the days following the murders. She claimed it had been stained with paint, but investigators wondered if it was the same dress she had worn during the killings. On August 11th, 1892, Lizzie Borden was arrested and charged with the murders of her father and stepmother. Her trial, which began in June 1893, became a national sensation. The courtroom was packed with spectators, and newspapers across the country reported on every detail. The prosecution painted Lizzie as a calculating killer, motivated by greed and resentment. They argued that she had grown tired of her father's frugality and her stepmother's presence and saw murder as the only way to gain her independence. The defense, on the other hand, portrayed Lizzie as a devoted daughter falsely accused. They pointed out that she had no history of violence and that the evidence against her was circumstantial. One of the most dramatic moments of the trial came when the prosecution presented the skulls of Andrew and Abby Borden as evidence. Lizzie reportedly fainted at the sight, a reaction that divided public opinion. Was it genuine shock or a calculated performance? After weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just 90 minutes before reaching a verdict. Not guilty. Lizzie Borden was acquitted of all charges, but the public remained deeply divided over her innocence. After her acquittal, Lizzie Borden returned to Fall River, but her life was never the same. She and her sister Emma inherited their father's estate and moved into a large home they named Maplecroft. Despite her newfound wealth, Lizzie was ostracized by the community. People whispered about her wherever she went, and her social circle dwindled. Even Emma eventually moved out, reportedly due to disagreements over Lizzie's lifestyle. Lizzie lived the rest of her life in relative isolation, passing away in 1927 at the age of 66. She never married or had children, and she never spoke publicly about the murders or her trial. Decades after her death, the mystery of the Lizzie Borden murders continues to fascinate and perplex. Some believe Lizzie was guilty, pointing to her strained relationship with her stepmother and the suspicious circumstances surrounding her actions. Others argue that she was falsely accused and that the true killer was someone outside the family, perhaps a disgruntled business associate of Andrew's or an unknown intruder. The Borden case has inspired countless books, films, and TV shows, cementing Lizzie's place in popular culture. The rhyme, "Lizzie Borden took an axe," became synonymous with her name, despite her acquittal. Today, the Borden House is a museum and bed and breakfast, attracting visitors from around the world who are drawn to the macabre history of the site. The empty rooms and preserved crime scene offer a glimpse into the events of that fateful day. But the question remains, what really happened in the Borden household? The Lizzie Borden murders are more than just a grisly crime. They are a window into the societal norms and prejudices of the time. Lizzie's trial highlighted issues of gender, class, and the limitations of forensic science in the 19th century. Was Lizzie Borden a victim of circumstance or a cunning criminal who got away with murder? The truth may never be known, but her story continues to captivate and intrigue generations. Thank you for joining me as we explored one of America's most notorious murder cases. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's unsolved mysteries and infamous crimes.